Affectionately referred to as the Bluebird of happiness, these adorable, gentle, and beautiful feathered friends are wonderful birds to have in your yard. In this video, I'm going to run through some tips to attract Eastern Bluebirds. Much of what I discuss will apply to the Western Bluebird as well. Eastern Bluebirds aren't your typical feeder bird, but that doesn't mean you can't have them as regular guests. One thing to understand is that they are mainly insect eaters, except for over winter when they eat more fruit from native trees. As with Baltimore Orioles, providing mealworms may work. A good thing to know is that Eastern Bluebirds can spot an insect from 60 feet away, so if they're flying overhead or through your yard and see some movement from live mealworms in a feeder, there is a better chance that they'll stop by to check it out. Once they know your yard as a food source, they will likely come back. One thing with live mealworms is that you need to provide them with care in order to keep them alive. Luckily, bluebirds will eat dried mealworms, which are much easier to deal with, but it may take some training to get them on board. A trick to try is by starting out with live mealworms, then after a few days of consistency, begin adding in some dried ones, upping the amount you mix in each day until it's all you are providing. When offering them mealworms, feeders such as platform and tray are good choices that bluebirds can use easily. If there are problems with larger birds, a dome feeder may help. By allowing you to lower the dome, it can be adjusted in a way that prohibits larger birds but will leave enough space for bluebirds. One thing with mealworms is that they don't have a lot of calcium, something that Eastern Bluebirds need while breeding and raising babies. An easy way to help, since many people have this on hand, is to provide crushed, roasted eggshells. This will help nesting females replenish the lost calcium. Although these birds aren't your typical seed eater, they will sometimes eat sunflower bits. It's not a big favorite of theirs though, so in order to keep their attention, make sure mealworms are present too. Over fall and winter, as well as early spring, another food they will sometimes eat is suet, which can be put out on a platform in broken up pieces. Suet can be bought locally in store or made at home. I will leave a link to a recipe down below. It's okay to provide supplemental food for bluebirds, but don't overdo it. They need a balanced diet and are very good at locating natural sources of food. So offer just a small amount of mealworms once or twice a day. If you are not successfully attracting them with these foods mentioned, try adding a bird bath. Water is essential to the survival of all birds, using it to clean their pretty feathers and to keep themselves hydrated, especially on the really warm days of summer. This can be an effective way to keep bluebirds coming, that is if you are able to keep up on giving the bird bath a quick wipe down and replacing the dirty water with fresh each day. Depending on the activity, make sure to thoroughly clean the bowl once a week. I'll leave a link for the proper way of going about this in the description. One thing with bluebirds is that they like open spaces. A small yard with a lot of trees or other things that congest the area won't be as appealing to them. Also, native trees and shrubs that produce berries or have the insects that they like will help to draw them in. Dogwood, juniper, sumac, and American elderberry are some that they like, but there are many others. If you're going to plant, it's best to get familiar with what species they like and what ones are typical for your location. Always go chemical-free since pesticides are dangerous for insect-eating birds. Another way to attract them to your yard, mainly over spring and summer, is to leave old trees if possible. Bluebirds are cavity nesters, but they cannot dig out their own holes and instead rely on old woodpecker holes or natural tree cavities. Fret not though if dead old trees are not a viable option for you. Nest boxes, specially designed for bluebirds, are readily used by them. Bluebird nest boxes can be bought at a store, online, or even built yourself. There is a ton of information online from good sources such as the Bluebird Society and Cornell Lab Nest Watch on how to properly build and maintain these nest boxes, as well as much more education. Links will be down in the description. I would go more in depth on the bluebird nest boxes, but it deserves its own separate video because there is a lot to be said about them. I plan to do a future video covering much of this, so stay tuned for that. So those are some of the tips, but I'm interested to hear from you bluebird enthusiasts. What are some things that you do to attract them? Comment below and help spread the information to others eager to be successful. Hopefully before you know it, your yard will be graced by these darling little thrushes. Thanks a bunch for watching, and thank you Birds Walking Down for the Eastern Bluebird videos. Make sure to check them out. For more on the Eastern Bluebird, check out a video I did last year. It's on the screen now. Happy spring birding!